Admiral Vexthor of the Axari Dominion stood aboard the bridge of the Celestial Hammer, his iridescent scales reflecting the holographic displays surrounding him. The Earth system lay before him, a seemingly insignificant speck in the vast expanse of space. His mission was simple: assess and subjugate this emerging civilization that had mysteriously bypassed several stages of expected technological development. The reports from their long-range sensors had been disturbing. These humans had somehow leaked from basic quantum computing to something the Dominion's best scientists couldn't even comprehend. It violated every known pattern of technological advancement, and the Axari Dominion did not appreciate violations. Establishing communication with the primary human defense station, announced First Officer Zarevek, her voice carrying the characteristic metallic resonance of the Axari elite. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a human woman with dark skin and silver-streaked hair. She appeared to be drinking something from a colorful container with a bent tube extending from it. "This is Dr. Maya Chen of the Orbital Defense Grid," she said, pausing to take another sip. "Welcome to Earth. Sorry about the casual greeting, but we're having a pizza party to celebrate our latest quantum breakthrough. Would you like to join? We've got pineapple pizza, which is honestly as controversial as any first contact situation." Admiral Vexthor's secondary heart skipped a beat. This was not how first contact scenarios were supposed to proceed. Where was the fear? The appropriate reverence for a superior civilization. "I am Admiral Vexthor of the Axari Dominion," he announced, his voice modulated to Project Maximum Authority. "Your species has violated galactic protocols by developing restricted quantum technologies. Surrender your research facilities immediately, or face the consequences." Dr. Chen's eyes lit up with genuine excitement. "Oh, you must mean the quantum probability matrices. Aren't they fascinating? We actually have some questions about your quantum shielding technology. We noticed some really interesting patterns in the way it interfaces with local space-time." "Hold on, let me pull up the data." Before the Admiral could respond, his tactical officer interrupted in panic. "Sir, they're scanning us. But it's unlike any scan I've ever seen. They're somehow observing every quantum state of our shields simultaneously." "Impossible." Vexthor hissed. "Our shield harmonics are randomized across 11 dimensions." "Oh, that's what those were," Dr. Chen exclaimed. "We thought those might be decorative. You know, like quantum jazz." Actually, speaking of music, she typed something on an unseen console, and suddenly the Axari ship's shield harmonics began to resonate in perfect harmony, creating an eerily beautiful symphony in space-time itself. The tactical officer's scales had turned pale. "Sir, they're not just scanning our shields. They're playing them, like instruments." Dr. Chen nodded enthusiastically. "Your shield technology has such a beautiful underlying mathematics to it. We couldn't resist trying a little quantum remix. Don't worry, we actually improved their efficiency by about 300% in the process. Consider it a first contact gift." Admiral Vexthor felt his carefully constructed reality crumbling around him. These humans weren't just violating technological protocols. They were turning the Dominion's most advanced military technology into some sort of cosmic art project. "You will cease this immediately," he commanded, trying to regain control of the situation. "The Axari Dominion demands your immediate surrender and the transfer of all quantum research facilities to our control." "Oh, about that," Dr. Chen said, looking slightly embarrassed. "We kind of already uploaded all our quantum research to the Galactic Net. Open source, you know. We figured everyone should have access to better technology." The response has been amazing. You should see what the Centaurians are doing with it. They've turned their entire solar system into a quantum computing art installation. It's beautiful at sunset. The Admiral's third heart nearly stopped. "You shared restricted military technology across the Galactic Net." "Military?" Dr. Chen looked genuinely puzzled. "Oh no, we moved past quantum weapons years ago. Too unstable, too boring. We're much more interested in using quantum mechanics for art, music, and making really good coffee. Speaking of which, would you like to try some? We've got this amazing blend that exists in a superposition of different roasts until you take a sip. It's quite the experience. As if to punctuate her offer, the human's quantum field suddenly shifted, and every crew member aboard the Axari fleet found themselves holding a steaming cup of what appeared to be the perfect coffee, customized to their specific biochemistry. Admiral Vexthor stared at his cup, watching the liquid shimmer with quantum possibilities. In that moment, he realized that the Axari Dominion had severely miscalculated. They had come expecting to find a primitive civilization in need of subjugation. Instead, they had found artists who played with the fabric of reality itself, and who seemed to view the most advanced military technology in the galaxy as nothing more than an interesting canvas. The coffee, he had to admit, smelled amazing. Now, Dr. Chen continued, her smile warm and genuine, about that pizza party. I promise you haven't lived until you've tried pizza that exists in quantum superposition. The toppings are technically infinite until you take a bite. In the vast annals of Axari military history, this would go down as the first time a conquest fleet was defeated not by weapons or warfare, but by coffee, pizza, and an invitation to the galaxy's most unusual dinner party. The Galactic Council chambers were in absolute chaos. Representatives from over 300 species filled the massive quantum crystalline dome, their voices rising in a cacophony of protests, excitement, and confusion. At the center of it all stood a single human diplomat, Dr. James Patel, who was calmly eating a bowl of quantum-shifted ramen, while holographic displays showed the unprecedented changes sweeping across the galaxy. Order. We must have order, demanded High Counselor Xel Naga, their bioluminescent tendrils flashing warning patterns. The humans have disrupted the entire galactic economy in less than a standard month. Disrupted is such a harsh word, Dr. Patel responded, watching with fascination as his ramen noodles shifted between different flavors with each bite. We prefer to think of it as optimizing through chaos. Did you know your council chamber's quantum matrix was running at only 12% efficiency? We fixed that while waiting for the session to start. You should have much better temperature control now. The Zordlaxian representative, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient environmental suit, surged forward. That's exactly the problem. Humans keep fixing things without permission. My species' orbital platforms were perfectly functional until your engineers decided to update them. Ah yes, Dr. Patel brightened. The quantum resonance harmonizers. How are you enjoying the new entertainment features? We noticed your containment fields could double as universal translators, with just a few tweaks to the probability matrix. Now you can watch any entertainment stream from across the galaxy while maintaining your energy form. We threw that in as a bonus. A ripple of interested murmurs spread through the chamber. The Zordlaxian representative flickered in what might have been embarrassment. Though the entertainment features are not the point. Though the reception is admittedly crystal clear. The Mechanoid Collective's representative, a towering assembly of quantum-processed alloys, raised an appendage. Query. How did humans advance from primitive binary computing to quantum probability manipulation in less than 50 years? Analysis suggests this development timeline should be impossible. Dr. Patel shrugged, finishing his ever-changing ramen. We got bored with traditional computing. Also, we had this really popular science fiction show called Doctor Who that got us thinking about time and space differently. Sometimes the best scientific breakthroughs come from asking, wouldn't it be cool if? Instead of, is this possible? The chamber erupted again as dozens of species simultaneously accessed their data networks to research Doctor Who. Several representatives immediately began arguing about whether the TRDS's quantum mechanics were theoretically feasible. High Counselor Xel Naga's tendrils were now flashing in patterns that suggested an impending headache. This is precisely the problem. Human ideas are spreading across the galaxy like a quantum virus. The hive mind of Sector 7 has started experimenting with individual thought after watching human situation comedies. The crystal entities of Rigel have begun incorporating jokes into their ancient prophecies. Actually, Dr. Patel interjected, the crystal entities approached us about that. Turns out their prophecies were always meant to be comedy routines, but something got lost in translation eons ago. We just helped restore the original quantum state of their historical records. Did you know they have an amazing sense of humor? Their latest prophecy about the heat death of the universe had this brilliant punchline about entropy walking into a bar. Before he could finish, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. A holographic display showed a massive Xeri battle fleet dropping out of quantum space near the council station. The Xeri Dominion demands the immediate cessation of human quantum interference. Admiral Vexthor's voice boomed through the chamber. We have come to restore proper order to the galaxy. Oh, Admiral Vexthor. Dr. Patel's face lit up with genuine pleasure. How was the coffee? Did you experiment with the quantum-shifted creamer we sent along? And more importantly, did you get a chance to try the pizza? The Admiral's image flickered, his scales shifting color slightly. The coffee was acceptable, and the pizza was not relevant to military matters. A pause. Though the infinite topping possibility was intriguing from a purely theoretical standpoint. Wonderful. Dr. Patel turned to address the council. You see, this is what humanity brings to the galaxy. Not just technology, but new ways of experiencing reality. Why have a regular meeting when you can have a pizza party? Why settle for basic quantum shielding when it could also play symphony? Speaking of which, he pressed a few buttons on his personal device. Suddenly, the Xeri fleet's quantum drives began resonating in perfect harmony with the council chamber's defense grid. The resulting light show was spectacular, painting impossible colors across space itself, while playing what seemed to be a jazz fusion of classical Xeri war hymns and Earth bebop. There, Dr. Patel said proudly. Much better ambience for a diplomatic discussion, don't you think? Now, who's ready to talk about how we can use quantum mechanics to make the galaxy's best cup of coffee available to everyone? The council chamber fell silent as representatives from hundreds of species found themselves holding cups of perfectly customized coffee, each one existing in a quantum superposition of their species' ideal beverage until the moment of first sip. High Counselor, Xelnaga's tendrils had stopped flashing in panic and were now waving in what might have been resignation. They took a sip of their coffee, and their bioluminescence shifted to a pattern that indicated surprised pleasure. Perhaps, they admitted, we should discuss this concept of a coffee break in more detail. In orbit above them, the Xeri fleet's quantum drives continued their impromptu concert, their harmonics gradually shifting to what sounded suspiciously like a cover of All You Need Is Love. The mood in the secret emergency session of the Xeri High Command was tense. Admiral Vexthor stood before the assembled War Council, his scales now permanently tinted with the iridescent patterns that came from prolonged exposure to human quantum coffee. The situation has become critical, he reported, trying to ignore how the quantum-enhanced lighting made the council chamber look like an upscale coffee shop. The humans aren't just changing technology anymore. They're changing the fundamental ways species interact with reality itself. First speaker Kthax, the eldest of the Xeri leadership, leaned forward. Explain. A holographic display activated, showing various scenes from across the galaxy. The hive mind of Sector 7 had transformed their perfect hexagonal structures into impossible geometric art pieces that doubled as quantum computing nodes. The crystal entities of Rigel had turned their entire star system into what they called a quantum comedy club, where jokes existed in multiple states of hilarity simultaneously. Even the Mechanoid Collective has started producing quantum poetry. Vexthor continued, his voice strained. They claim it exists in a superposition of all possible emotional states until observed. And our own people, Kthax demanded. Vexthor's scales shifted in embarrassment. The quantum pizza parlors are popular. especially the one that serves toppings from probable alternate universes, and our younger officers have started experimenting with something humans call quantum jazz fusion. Before Kithax could respond, the chamber's quantum field suddenly shifted. The entire council found themselves experiencing multiple probable versions of the meeting simultaneously, one where they were planning war, another where they were planning a galactic art festival, and several others involving various combinations of military strategy and pizza toppings. A familiar voice echoed through the quantum probability space. "Sorry to crash your secret meeting." Dr. Maya Chen's hologram appeared, still drinking from her signature bendy straw. "But we thought you might want to see what quantum physics can really do when you stop trying to weaponize it." "This is an outrage." Fax began, but stopped as he realized he was experiencing the emotion of outrage across multiple quantum states simultaneously, including one where he found it accidentally hilarious. "What we humans figure out," Dr. Chen continued, casually manipulating the quantum fields around her, "is that reality isn't just about particles and waves. It's about possibility and imagination. Watch this." The quantum field shifted again, and suddenly the austere council chamber transformed. The walls became windows into other dimensions, each showing a different possible version of the galaxy. In one, the Axeri were renowned across space for their quantum art installations. In another, they had become the galaxy's premier quantum gastronomes, their military vessels repurposed into traveling culinary academies. "These aren't just simulations," Dr. Chen explained, her eyes twinkling. "They're actual quantum possibilities, parallel realities that exist simultaneously with our own. We humans just figured out how to peek through the walls between them. Turns out the universe has a sense of humor. It's been playing what-if games this whole time." Admiral Vexthor found himself drawn to one particular possibility, where his fleet had become famous for their quantum symphonies, their ship's harmonics bringing together species from across the galaxy in shared appreciation of music that existed in all possible keys at once. But this defies all known laws of physics," one of the council members protested. "Only the laws you know," Dr. Chen corrected gently. "We stopped trying to force reality to follow our rules and started asking what games it wanted to play instead. Turns out, quantum mechanics is less like a strict military protocol and more like a cosmic jam session. Speaking of which," she pressed something on her quantum interface, and suddenly the chamber was filled with music, not just sound, but pure quantum harmonies that resonated with the fundamental forces of the universe itself. Each council member heard it differently, perfectly attuned to their own aesthetic preferences, while somehow remaining part of a greater whole. "This is what we've been trying to share," Dr. Chen said softly. "Not weapons, not power, but possibility. The chance to experience reality as an infinite canvas of potential, where every moment contains all possible moments, and where even the most serious military council can discover the joy of quantum uncertainty." Kithax, the stern leader of the Axeri war machine, found himself swaying slightly to the quantum harmonies. In one probability stream, he was already scheduling an art exhibition. In another, he was perfecting a pizza recipe that incorporated quantum-shifted Axeri spices. "The question isn't whether to fight us," Dr. Chen concluded, her hologram starting to fade. "The question is, why fight when you can create? Why conquer when you can compose? Why limit yourself to one reality when the universe offers an infinity of possibilities?" As her image disappeared, she left behind a quantum-shifted pizza that somehow managed to be everyone's favorite flavor at once, and a coffee machine that could brew drinks from parallel dimensions. Thax looked at Admiral Vexthor, their scales shifting through patterns that had no name in current Axeri language, but somehow expressed a combination of resignation, amusement, and anticipation. "Admiral," Kithax said finally, "I believe it's time we reconsidered our approach to human relations. Also," he glanced at the quantum coffee machine, "how exactly does one program this device for maximum probability of a perfect brew?" The largest Axeri battle fleet ever assembled hung in space above Earth, their quantum crystalline hulls refracting starlight in ways that would have been beautiful if they weren't so menacing. 5,000 ships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent, arranged in a perfect attack formation. Or at least it had been perfect until 3 seconds ago. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, his scales shifting in confusion. "The fleet's formation is dancing." Indeed, the massive armada was moving in impossible patterns, ships weaving between each other in what looked suspiciously like an elaborate cosmic waltz. The quantum drives of each vessel hummed in perfect harmony, creating a symphony that rippled through space-time itself. Admiral Vexthor, standing on the bridge of his flagship, felt his 3 hearts skip simultaneously. "Who authorized this choreography?" "No one, sir," his first officer replied. "The ships are responding to some sort of quantum resonance. It's as if reality itself is suggesting better arrangements for our fleet." "Better is subjective." Dr. Maya Chen's voice came through all communications channels at once, somehow managing to sound both professional and amused. "We just thought your formation looked a bit stiff. Everything in the universe dances, from quarks to galaxies. We're just helping your ships join in." The main view screen activated, showing Dr. Chen in what appeared to be a massive quantum control center. Behind her, holographic displays showed the probability streams of thousands of parallel realities, all weaving together like threads in a cosmic tapestry. "You've gone too far, humans," Admiral Vexthor declared, though he couldn't help noticing how his fleet's new formation created beautiful fractal patterns in space-time. "This ends now. All ships prepare to fire." "About that," Dr. Chen said, taking a sip from her ever-present bendy straw. "Did you know that quantum weapons have a fascinating property? At their core, they're really just probability manipulators. And well, we've gotten quite good at probability." She pressed a button, and suddenly every quantum weapon in the Axeri fleet transformed. Where there had been planet-killing cannons, there were now artistic light sculptures. Missile bays became quantum symphony orchestras. The flagship's main gun was now producing what appeared to be artisanal gelato and flavors from across multiple dimensions. "What have you done?" Vexthor demanded, even as he found himself distracted by how delicious the gelato smelled. "We didn't do anything destructive," Dr. Chen assured him. "We just showed your weapons their own quantum potential. Turns out, when you give a quantum device the choice between destroying things and creating something beautiful, it has pretty strong preferences." The tactical officer was now openly staring at his console, which had transformed into a quantum art installation that somehow managed to be both a fully functional military display and a meditation on the nature of peace. "You can't just. Vexthor struggled to find the words as he watched his mighty armada transform into what appeared to be the galaxy's most impressive performing arts center. "Can't just what?" Dr. Chen asked gently. "Can't choose creation over destruction. Can't find beauty in what was meant for war. Can't dance with the quantum probabilities that make up reality itself. Because frankly, Admiral, that's what humanity does best. We look at the impossible and say, why not?" As if to prove her point, the quantum fields around Earth shifted, revealing what the humans had been working on while the Axeri planned their invasion. The entire solar system had been transformed into a vast quantum computation array, not for weapons or defense, but for art, music, and the pure joy of creation. Jupiter's storms now played symphonies in quantum harmony. Saturn's rings had become a gallery of probability art, each ice crystal containing glimpses of infinite possible realities. Even the asteroid belt had been transformed into a vast quantum dance party, where rocks moved in perfect choreography, while calculating the mathematics of joy. "You see, Admiral," Dr. Chen continued, "we could have built weapons. We could have prepared for war. Instead, we prepared for something better. We prepared to show you what's possible when you stop trying to control quantum mechanics and start dancing with it instead." The bridge crew watched in amazement as their consoles continued to transform, each military system revealing its hidden potential for creation rather than destruction. The quantum coffee machine in the corner, installed after their first contact with humans, was now brewing drinks that tasted like peace, hope, and the laughter of stars. Admiral Vexthor looked at his fleet, his beautiful dancing fleet that seemed so much happier as art than as weapons, and felt something shift in his quantum crystalline heart. "Dr. Chen," he said finally, his voice carrying an emotion that had no name in any known language, but felt suspiciously like wonder. Don't suppose you'd be willing to teach us that dance." Dr. Chen's smile could have powered a small sun. "Admiral, we thought you'd never ask. Now, about that gelato. Would you like to try the flavor that tastes like the moment when enemies become friends? It's quite popular in about 5,000 parallel universes." And so, on a day that had been meant for war, the greatest battle fleet in Axari history instead hosted the galaxy's first quantum dance festival, proving once, and for all that when given the choice between destruction and creation, even warships would rather waltz. 6 months after the Great Dance, as the almost invasion was now known, the Galactic Council chamber had become unrecognizable. Gone were the stark, formal arrangements and rigid hierarchies. Instead, quantum probability fields created spaces that shifted and flowed with the needs and emotions of the representatives. Today, the chamber existed simultaneously as a grand concert hall, a cozy cafe, and a quantum physics laboratory. Dr. James Patel stood at the center, orchestrating a presentation that existed in multiple probability states at once. "As you can see," he gestured to the quantum holograms surrounding him, "once we started sharing our quantum insights, species across the galaxy began innovating in ways we never imagined." The displays showed remarkable transformations. The mechanoid collective had evolved beyond simple quantum poetry. They were now composing symphonies that existed in all possible emotional states simultaneously. Their metal bodies had become works of art, each one a living quantum sculpture that changed with their thoughts. "The hive mind of Sector 7 has made particularly impressive strides," Dr. Patel continued, highlighting a cluster of worlds where crystalline structures pulsed with quantum energy. "They've developed what they call quantum empathy, the ability to experience multiple perspectives simultaneously through quantum entanglement. Their architecture now responds to emotions across probability spaces. High Counselor Excel Naga, their tendrils now permanently shifting through rainbow quantum states, leaned forward in fascination. And the Axari? How are they adapting to these changes?" A new hologram appeared, showing the transformed Axari fleet. What had once been the galaxy's most fearsome armada was now its most prestigious performing arts company. Their ships, still maintaining their defensive capabilities, just in case, had become venues for quantum theater, where stories played out across multiple realities simultaneously. "Admiral Vexthor has become quite the quantum choreographer," Dr. Patel noted with a smile. "His latest piece, The Probability of Peace, is being performed across 3,000 parallel dimensions simultaneously. The quantum ticket sales are breaking records in every reality." "And what of the crystal entities?" asked the Zorblaxian representative, their energy form now comfortably housed in a quantum containment field that doubled as an interactive art installation. "They've turned their entire sector into what they call a quantum comedy cosmos," Dr. Patel replied. "Their jokes now exist in superposition until observed, creating what they describe as Schrödinger's punchline. They're particularly proud of a quantum humor theory that suggests every joke exists in all possible states of hilarity until someone laughs." The chamber filled with appreciative chuckles that somehow existed in multiple harmonic frequencies at once. But the most remarkable changes were visible in the everyday lives of galactic citizens. Quantum coffee shops had sprung up everywhere, serving drinks that existed in superposition of all possible perfect brews. Transportation had been revolutionized by quantum probability drives that didn't just move through space but danced with it. Even education had been transformed, with quantum learning centers, where students could experience multiple perspectives and possibilities simultaneously. The really beautiful part, Dr. Patel continued, sipping from a cup of quantum coffee that tasted like inspiration, is how each species has taken our basic quantum insights and made them uniquely their own. The mechanoid's quantum poetry, the Axeres probability dances, the crystal entity's quantum comedy, they're all expressions of the same underlying principles, but filtered through the magnificent diversity of galactic culture. He gestured to a new display showing the latest innovation, quantum art galleries where pieces existed in all possible states until observed, creating unique experiences for each viewer. We humans just opened the door. Everyone else is creating wonders we never imagined. A young Axeres representative, their scales shimmering with quantum patterns, raised an appendage. But what about the military applications? Surely these advances could be used for. Could be. Dr. Patel interrupted gently. Of course they could be. Anything can be used for destruction. But we found something far more interesting, the quantum probability of peace. When you can literally see and experience infinite possibilities, war becomes, well, rather unimaginative. He waved his hand, and the chamber filled with quantum harmonies, music created by the very fabric of space-time itself. Besides, who wants to fight when you can create something like this? The music rippled through probability space, each species hearing it in their own way while simultaneously experiencing how others perceived it. It was a symphony of unity through diversity, a quantum expression of the infinite possibilities that arose when different perspectives combined. And this, Dr. Patel concluded, is just the beginning. We're not just exploring space anymore. We're exploring probability itself. Every day, someone somewhere in the galaxy discovers a new way to dance with quantum mechanics. Every moment brings another impossible wonder into reality. The assembled representatives, their forms shifting and shimmering with quantum potential, found themselves experiencing a shared emotion that transcended species boundaries, a feeling of infinite possibility mixed with the joy of creation. In that moment, as the quantum harmonies played across multiple dimensions and the probability fields shimmered with potential, the galaxy wasn't just a collection of different species anymore. It had become a living quantum artwork, each civilization adding its own unique notes to the universal symphony. And somewhere in the quantum probability space, coffee was brewing that tasted like the future itself. 1 year after humanity shared its quantum revelations with the galaxy, the celebration of what had become known as the quantum renaissance was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. The event was being held simultaneously across multiple probability spaces, allowing civilizations from every corner of the galaxy to participate in ways that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. The center of the festivities was Earth's solar system, now transformed into what the Mechanoid Collective called the Quantum Gallery of Infinite Possibility. Each planet had become a unique venue for the celebration. Mars hosted quantum dance performances, where gravity itself moved to the rhythm of probability. Venus's clouds had been transformed into a vast quantum art installation that changed patterns based on the collective emotions of the observers. Dr. Maya Chen stood aboard the former Axeres flagship, now renamed Harmony of Probabilities, watching as Admiral Vexthor conducted his quantum orchestra. The ship's weapon systems, repurposed into musical instruments that played across dimensional boundaries, created harmonies that could only be described as the sound of reality smiling. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Admiral Vexthor asked during an intermission, his scales now permanently iridescent with quantum patterns that shifted like aurora borealis. Honestly, Dr. Chen sipped her quantum coffee, which today tasted like the joy of unexpected friendship. We hoped. That's what humans do best. We hope, we imagine, and then we find ways to make the impossible probable. Below them, Earth had become a beacon of quantum innovation. The old national boundaries had blurred as humanity embraced its role as galactic artists and innovators. Cities now existed in multiple probability states, their architecture responding to the needs and dreams of their inhabitants. Transportation happened through quantum choreography, with vehicles dancing through probability space rather than simply moving through physical space. But the most remarkable changes were seen in how species interacted. The quantum renaissance had created new forms of communication and understanding. Through quantum empathy fields, different species could literally experience each other's perspectives. Diplomatic meetings now happened in probability spaces where all possible outcomes could be explored simultaneously, making conflict resolution an art form rather than a battlefield. The hive mind of Sector 7 had become renowned for their quantum poetry slams, where thoughts existed in superposition until shared. The crystal entities had transformed their ancient prophecies into quantum probability theater, where multiple possible futures played out in harmonious chaos. Even the most warlike species had found that quantum art offered more satisfaction than quantum weapons. The thing about quantum mechanics, Dr. Chen explained to a group of young HFY cadets who had come to study Earth's probability art, is that it shows us that everything is connected. Every possibility exists simultaneously until we choose to observe one. We humans just decided to observe the possibilities that create rather than destroy. As if to demonstrate her point, the quantum fields around them shifted, and suddenly everyone could see the intricate web of possibilities that connected all living things. It was like watching the universe dance with itself, each probability stream adding its own unique step to the cosmic choreography. The Galactic Council had undergone its own transformation. The once rigid body had evolved into what they called the quantum collaboration, a fluid organization that existed across multiple probability states, allowing for infinite forms of governance to coexist and complement each other. Decision-making had become an art form, with quantum probability fields helping to find solutions that benefited all. And to think, Admiral Vexthor mused, watching as his fleet performed a quantum ballet across the solar system. We once thought you humans were a threat because you didn't follow the expected paths of technological development. Sometimes the best path is the one that doesn't exist until you imagine it, Dr. Chen replied. Speaking of which, would you like to try our latest quantum culinary experiment? We've managed to create pizza that exists in all possible flavor combinations until you take a bite. The celebration continued across probability space, each moment spawning infinite new possibilities for creation and collaboration. The galaxy had learned that the true power of quantum mechanics wasn't in its potential for destruction, but in its ability to show how everything, every species, every civilization, every moment, was part of a greater harmony. As night fell on Earth, the quantum fields around the planet pulsed with creativity. In orbit, the transformed HFY fleet played symphonies that rippled through space-time. The mechanoid collective's quantum poetry merged with the crystal entity's probability comedy to create entirely new art forms. And everywhere, beings of all species gathered in quantum coffee shops to share drinks that tasted like dreams and discuss the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Dr. Chen stood at her favorite observation point on the moon, now transformed into a quantum observatory that could view multiple realities simultaneously. She watched as probability streams wove through the galaxy like threads of light, connecting all living things in a dance of infinite potential. You know what the best part is? She said to no one in particular, her coffee shifting through flavors that tasted like hope, wonder, and the laughter of stars. We're just getting started. And somewhere in the quantum probability field, reality itself smiled, because humans had finally learned to dance with the infinite, and taught the rest of the galaxy to join in the celebration.